The cleaners, special agents sent to wipe out anything alive or dead on the island, are the biggest pushovers though. Despite having automatic weapons, their aim is suspect at best, as shown by them being completely unable to hit a stationary target. They tend to only shoot when they're in preset firing positions, they tend to stand a foot away before even thinking of attacking, and they'll die in 1, sometimes 2 body shots. I can't even argue their being weak is due to them being human because they're actually artificial humanoid creations, meaning that someone thought having ridiculously weak security was a good idea. That, and I'm pretty sure normal people don't have green blood, roar like tigers, and melt into the ground when they die. One of the more difficult enemies in Survivor is another guy recycled from Resident Evil 2, Mr. X. He shows up repeatedly throughout the game and does his usual slow walk, punches, and the occasional shoulder charge. But unlike RE2, the sped up firing rate and large magazine size of the default handgun is enough to take him down in 2 mags. Even then, his punches always go straight ahead, so a common strategy to do is run to a corner and shoot, then run to another corner and shoot, and repeat until he dies. This is particularly simple in some spots, as Mr. X's AI gets easily confused if there are any obstacles in the room.
When they go round in circles, when they fly high and a bird up in the sky, when they go down in circles, yeah,
The only time I really had trouble with Mr. X was when 2 of him showed up in the same narrow area.
You know your enemies aren't strong enough when...
Yes, there are multiple Mr. X's. Rather than having just one that kept coming back in Resident Evil 2, in Survivor, there's a platoon of them sitting in test tubes that can be killed by a handgun with relative ease. Still, the game will occasionally throw in a bullshit cheap shot moment like this. Hey, check it out. I got poisoned and hit 9 times in a 16-second span, and after all that, I'm only in caution. Trying to do much of anything in this game is a bit of a chore thanks to the first-person view. This essentially gives the player bad tunnel vision, as you can't see anything beyond what's in a short horizontal range in front of you, and there's no way to look up or down. Well, there is, but only when you pick up an item above or below your line of sight, and you do this by walking over it. Note, walking backwards over an item doesn't pick it up. This is also how observing the environment works, and many times it forces your character to shove his face into a wall to read a sign, open a door, or use a card reader.
Okay, to be perfectly fair, that is how I study for exams.
Jump scares are fairly common in Survivor, except they're almost always out of the player's line of sight. I guess the idea was to get the player to panic, but it falls flat when 1. You put in a quick look/lock-on button, and 2. Most of the attacks can be avoided by not standing still. While monsters are generally easy to kill, that doesn't mean the cursor is simple to use. I highly recommend using a DualShock controller with this game. Not only because the analog stick moves a lot smoother than the D-pad, but because it's also a bit faster than the D-pad. Either way, it's still awkward to aim at targets from a distance, as getting the cursor to center on them typically involves tapping left or right over and over as the crosshairs keep skipping over the target.
Failing that, you could always use the gun console port for Survive. Oh, wait, no, you can't. You see, the Japanese and the PAL versions of Survivor have gun console support, but the North American version does not. Why?
Despite its linear nature, there are a few points where you're given multiple paths to choose from, including one near the beginning of the game. There are some places you'll visit no matter what, like the prison and the factory, but there are some unique places on the paths like the hospital, the theater, the nightclub... Wait, Heaven's Night? The nightclub from Silent Hill 2? But this came before Silent Hill 2.
Does that mean that Konami was... No. 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 It's not possible. It can't be possible. Why would they do that?
This is actually a nice option, as certain paths affect certain aspects of the game. First of all, it affects who the main villain is. There are 3 potential main antagonists. The leader of the Umbrella Cleaner crew.
Remember your mission! We're doing a clean sweep of the area! Everyone and everything must be cleansed! Now move out!
Andy Holland, the sewer manager who blames Vincent for the viral outbreak and earns extra cash as Danny DeVito's stunt double.
Please, don't kill me.
And the man in white from earlier, who somehow survived falling from the helicopter.
You're going to pay for what you've done.
Also affected are the weapons you find, or to be more specific, the handguns you find. Survivor has a total of 4 different handguns, the one you start with, and one along each different path. They vary in terms of appearance, magazine size, reload speed, firing rate, and damage per round. Oh, and they're listed just as handguns A through D. Yeah, very original Capcom. I honestly like their including this, but it falls flat for a few reasons. 1. The story of the game.
Spoiler! The guy in white is Vincent.
Gasp.
Vincent is the main focus of everything that happens on Sheena Island, and a big reason the outbreak happens. The difference between him being alive versus being dead in the other paths is negligible. In fact, the same can be said for both the Cleaner Commander and Andy. Andy only shows up anywhere from 2 to 3 times on either of the other paths. You go through his office on every path, which he isn't in for some reason, and he's supposedly spending the length of the game trying to kill you, so why does he just fade into the background on any path but his own? Oh, and you want to know how many times the leader of the Cleaners is mentioned on the Vincent path? 0. Sure, the Cleaners are mentioned, but the leader is never singled out. It makes taking his specific path seem like a waste of time, and overall it makes everyone who's supposed to be the main villain seem less important.
In fact, here's the main difference between the 3 paths. It changes who confronts you and then gets killed at the end of the game. Oh yeah, I forgot. Spoilers! The villain dies at the end, just like for every Resident Evil game. Okay, almost every Resident Evil game.
And aside from appearance and novelty value, there's not much reason to use any handgun but the default one. The differences between them are either so minor there's little reason to switch, or such a detriment that you won't want to switch. For example, I used Handgun D for a while because it was the most powerful, but I quickly switched back because of its terrible firing speed and only being able to hold 8 bullets. With the faster firing rate of the default gun, I could do more damage in the same time span. So really the only reasons to play each path are to find all the guns that you won't use, see all the potential villains, none of which appear all that threatening, and fight all of the monsters. Yeah, there's one enemy in particular you can only find by going through the basement level of the prison. You go down a hallway and... oh dear Christ, Capcom, really? I know you just borrowed a bunch of enemy models from Resident Evil 2, but you had to use the alligator too? Not only that, but when you back up to shoot it, another alligator appears behind you.
Why?
What, was jumping only one shark not enough? There is absolutely no reason for the second alligator to be there. For one, the door it's blocking is locked from the other side. Andy locks it in a cutscene before either alligator shows up, a clip that looks just like the one from the library.
Die, Vincent! It's such a shame that you must die here, Vincent.
Only an idiot would try to get past the second alligator to try opening it. 2, the first alligator is blocking the only way out. And 3rd, if your back is turned to it, the second alligator doesn't attack you. Can you name any other T-virus infected animals that politely wait for permission to attack?
I was in your neighborhood, and well, being undead and all, I wonder if I couldn't eat your brains.
I'm sorry, but I'm not letting this go. The second alligator might as well just not exist. Was there really someone in the design crew that said,
So you go into this little hallway and then an alligator attacks you? You mean the same ones from the second game? Yeah, but here's the thing. You back up, and then a second alligator attacks from behind you! Wouldn't that be excessive and cruel to the player? No. You see, here's the thing. The alligator only attacks when you look at it. So it's like the booze from Mario World, except instead of attacking when you're not looking at it, it only attacks when you look at it. Exactly. Well, that's just plain stupid. I mean...
Put it in the game!